Welcome back, I'm Paul, and today we got some polychrome jasper, and it came in some pretty large pieces. I didn't get any pictures or anything of the large pieces, but I just got done cutting this stuff up on the saw, so you can see some of the bands and stuff in it. Some of it's got some pretty cool stuff going on. I left a couple of them a little bit larger. That one's a little wet right there yet from saw stuff, but so I've already got a little bit of this that I was using for some filler in another batch, but we're going to start this rolling in a 3-pound barrel, and as I pull stuff out, I'll use that stuff that's already been started to keep filling the barrel up as we go. So I'm going to get the camera all set up here, and we'll get the barrel out, and we'll get this stuff loaded in a 3-pound barrel, and we'll get it rolling. Alright, so we got everything all set up here. We've got our barrel with a little water in it, and we've got our pieces of our polychrome jasper. This stuff's pretty neat. It's got a lot of bands and stuff in it, like you can see here. That's what it looks like dry, and then if I put it in the water, you can see how the color really comes out. And there's most of it is blues and grays and some reds. There's another piece when you get it wet. And some of them are just more whites. This isn't one of the white ones. One of the white ones. Or I should say cream color maybe. It's got a lot of the cream color in it, and browns and tans. So personally, I like more of the bright, colorful ones, and then I've got some that, these ones almost remind me just a little bit of the Wild Horse picture jasper I've done already, so I kind of wanted to leave, this is kind of a bigger piece, but I'm going to leave it because I wanted to leave that part there where it's broke open like that, and you can see all the layers and stuff. I think that one's cool, and then this one is a lot like that one, and I'm going to leave this one larger too and see how it turns out. They might actually have been broke apart from each other. I can't remember. It was pretty big when I got it, and I did break it up. So we are going to load some into this 1-pound barrel. All of these pieces have been cut with the saw. But that one's got a lot of cool colors on it. Some neat bands. So yeah, I think it'll turn out nice. So we'll get all that in. We'll fill it 2/3 to 3/4 full. Might put this one in there. Alright. Oh, there's another one that I cut. I cut it kind of like a thick slab, but I cut it in a way so you can see all the bands. So the outside of it just looks like that. It'll tumble off pretty much, and you can see the bands on the inside. So I think that's about where we need to be there. And we will put our water in just below the bottom of the top layer of rock. We'll go about there. And then I've got 3 tablespoons. I always run 3 tablespoons in this 3-pound barrel. And it's 3 tablespoons of 4670 coarse grit. Alright, I'll button it up, and we'll get it on the tumbler, and I always roll for 7 days, and we'll go through them. I really doubt in 7 days everything will be ready to move on to the next stage, but we'll check it all out, and we'll throw some more in to fill the barrel, and we'll keep doing that until we have enough of it done to run a batch in the lotto, and then we'll polish it. So by the end of the video, we'll have full from coarse, rough, jagged rocks like this, all the way to nice, shiny, polished rocks. So I'll be back next week. Alright, polychrome jasper has been going for a week. This is always the most noticeable change. That's what it looks like after a week. Lots of color in that. I like it. A lot of reds and blues and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. I'm going to go through those. And I don't assume that anything's going to be ready to move to the next stage yet. But if there is, I'll show. And I will come back when I load them back up. And we'll just see what we got. All right, like I thought, nothing's ready. Some of them are looking pretty good, though. There's really not a whole lot to see. It all looks about the same. Some different colors. I'm going to top the barrel off and we'll put in some grit. But I think from here on out, just to get the video a little shorter, I might just wait until I have some to come out when I'm rinsing them every week. Because I do the same thing every week. I pull them out, rinse them, check them, and pull them if they're ready for the next stage and put in new stuff. Or if they're not ready, they just keep rolling. So I think I'll just pop back in whenever I have stuff ready to go until we're ready to go to the lotto tumbler, just to make the video so it's not so darn long. So I've got some here that we're going to use to top the barrel off. Get it back. It's only about half full or so now. We'll get it back up to the 2/3. Need some smaller stuff in there. All right. There, we're filled back up. The water's in there. I have 3 tablespoons of 4670 grit. And now it's ready to go back on the tumbler for a week. And like I say, I'm just going to repeat this process until things are ready to move to medium grit and we're ready to run a load in the lotto tumbler. And then we'll be back to look at that. And I'll keep track of how many weeks it took rolling them in this 3-pound barrel to get one load ready for the lotto tumbler. So, all right, today we basically have all of our polychrome jasper ready to move on to the next stage, which is medium in the lotto tumbler. And the lotto tumbler finished up with our last batch, so we're ready to get our polychrome going to medium. This is what it looks like after coarse grit, and it's all dry right now. I could get it wet and you can see the color a little bit better. And that's what it looks like wet. Kind of gives you a little bit of an indicator what it'll look like when it's polished. So we've got a couple of really cool pieces in here that I'm pretty excited about. So on the last load in my lotto, I have a hard time on the medium grit. The medium grit uses 2 tablespoons of grit, and all the others use a half a teaspoon of grit and a tablespoon of borax. So there's more grit, and the medium grit is the most aggressive I run in my lotto, so it sands essentially more rock dust off the rock, so it ends up gumming up the barrel a lot faster. So I have troubles getting it to run for 2 days when I do 2 tablespoons of grit. So what I did on my last barrel is, my last batch, I ran 1 tablespoon of the medium grit and I ran it for a day. Then I dump it, clean it, put it back in and do another tablespoon of grit for another 1-day run, and they turned out really well. So I'm going to do that again. And I'm probably going to start doing it like that, just because 2 days with the 2 tablespoons of grit, it just seemed like it would gum up and I just struggled getting it rolling. It just would want to, especially if you're away from it for 8 or 10 hours or something like that. So, and that's the case most of the time for me. So we're going to get these loaded in the barrel. I've got some water in there already. Yeah, some of these are got some pretty cool colors. A lot of blues and reds. I really like these. I've seen some that turn out really nice, so I'm hoping that ours turn out good. Yeah, there's some really nice ones down here. All right, there's all of our rocks, and now we'll load a little bit of ceramic media in there. All right, I may end up having to add some more ceramic, but I usually do that on the lotto tumbler after it's rolling. It gives me a better indicator of how full it really is. So you want everything wet with no standing water. So I'll dump this water out and we'll move over to the lotto and get it rolling on medium. All right, we're over on the lotto and we're gonna get it going and get the grit added. We'll do 1 tablespoon of medium. Alright, we'll be back tomorrow after it runs for a day and rinse it and do another 1-day stage of the medium grit. Alright, our polychrome jasper went for its second 1-day run on the medium grit. And that's what it looks like afterwards. I'll wash that in a minute. All right, that's what everything looks like after a 2-day cycle of medium grit in the lotto tumbler. So I'll go ahead and rinse them up a little better, wash the barrel, and we'll get set up on the lotto and get it going to the 500 grit silicon carbide. I'm pretty excited to get these polychrome jaspers done. They're looking really nice. Everything's washed good and the barrel's all washed up. So we're going to roll 500 grit silicon carbide next. We'll do a half a teaspoon of the 500 and a tablespoon of borax, and we'll go for 2 days. We'll check them a few times a day for water, and they'll go for a couple days. All right, today our polychrome jasper is done with 2 days of 500 grit. And sometimes when I get busy and I don't have time to rinse them off, I'll just shut it off and I fill it with water and I let them sit like that. I've been busy the last couple days, so they've been sitting like that for a couple of days, but we're going to rinse them off now and we'll get them going on the 1000 grit. So that's just a little tip. If you don't have time to rinse them out or look at them, I just fill it up with water and I let it sit like that, and I've never had an issue like that. So a little bit of gummed up on the bottom, but that's normal. All right, I'll clean that up better in a minute. Okay, that's what everything's looking like. Everything's looking really good. Obviously no shape or anything has changed. They just keep getting closer to the point where they're going to get shiny. So we'll clean these up better, and I'll clean the barrel up better, and we'll get it moved back over to the lotto, and we'll get them going on 1000 grit. All right, everything's all cleaned up real well, and we're back on the tumbler. We're going to get it rolling again, and we'll do a tablespoon of borax and a half a teaspoon of the 1000 grit silicon carbide, and it'll go for another 2 days. We'll check the water a few times a day, and they'll roll for 2 days, and we'll be ready to move to the next stage. All right, after the rocks got done with 1000 grit for 2 days, I rinsed them, and then I put them back in the barrel with just borax, and ran a little borax burnish cycle. I do that when I switch from 1000 grit to polish, just to make sure everything's good and clean, and then also to clean the inside of the barrel, because it's the only barrel I have. So I clean the barrel a little better, so I'm ready to go to polish, so I don't carry anything over. I just ran them with the borax for a couple of hours. And now I'll scrub the barrel real good, and I'll go through all the rocks and clean them all up good, and make sure if any of them have any holes or cracks that there's nothing left in there, any grit from the other stages, and we'll get them going on to the polish stage. Alright, that's what everything's looking like. Everything looks really nice. It always looks good when it's wet, but everything's looking really, really nice. So I'll go ahead and scrub all these, make sure there's nothing in any cracks, and get the barrel scrubbed up good, and then we'll come back when we're set up on the lotto, getting ready to go to polish. Alright, everything is all scrubbed up, which was pretty easy for the most part on this batch, because I pretty well ran all of these till there are no flaws. They're just like 2 or 3 little spots on a couple that I had to scrub some stuff out of. Otherwise, they're pretty well flawless. So that goes really fast. If there's no flaws, there's nothing to hold grit. So it goes pretty good. So we will get them going on polish. It'll be a tablespoon of borax and a half a teaspoon of the polish, and they'll go for 2 days. That's the borax. And the polish doesn't look much different than the borax. Alright, we'll check them a few times a day to make sure they're looking good on water, and they'll roll for 2 days, and I'll probably just, when I get done with the polish cycle, I'll run them through a burnish cycle, just clean them all up, put them back in the barrel with borax, and run them for a couple hours, and then we'll clean them for a final time, and they'll be ready to look at. After these polychrome jaspers got done with the 2 days of polish, I dumped them and washed them and cleaned the barrel and just put them back in the barrel with borax, and we did a burnish for a couple hours. And now they've been all cleaned and dried, and I'd say it was a pretty good success. They turned out really nice. They all have a good shine, and I'm pretty happy with this batch. It might have been one of the best batches we've had. So we'll take a quick look at a few of them, and that'll be the end of these ones. Got to move the camera, or it doesn't want to focus very well with the whole pile there. So polychrome jasper's got a lot of colors and different kind of patterns in it, and they definitely shined up really nice. I'm super happy with that. There's always a few flaws that if you don't let them dry and really inspect them, the water almost kind of hides a really small flaw. So I did find a couple flaws that I didn't realize were there after they dried, and I really looked them over, but for the most part, they're still all really nice. Pretty happy with them, so. Definitely turned out to be a good batch. And we've got a couple that look like this. This one's going in our favorites jar. This is my favorite one. Normally save the best for last, but it might not be the best, but it's my favorite. That one turned out really good. I usually like the ones that are a little bigger too, but I've been trying to cut things down and break things down a little smaller for some different things I want to use them for. This is the other, as you can see, they basically have the same pattern and look. I don't remember if it busted off of this side or this side, but these two were part of the same rock when we got it and busted it up. So I'm thinking it was like this-ish. Looks about right. So those ones are really nice. And they were all bigger rocks when we got them, we busted them up. And you can see a lot of them, like this one, and this one, and this one were all part of the same rock that got busted up. And I think maybe that one too. There was about 5 or 6 different big rocks that we busted up to get all the smaller pieces. Those ones all look good. And then there was one that had these pieces. It's got a little bit more white and browns and tans to it, not quite as much color, but they still look really nice. They turned out good. The whole batch as a whole, I'm super happy with them. I'm really glad they turned out as good as they did. So we got a few other ones here. These ones were part of the same rock. I don't remember how they broke apart, but they were together at one point in time. And these ones, I believe, were part of the same rock. That one's still got a hole in it right there. But it still looks really nice. So, as a whole, this batch was a success. I'm really happy with how they turned out. And now we have an empty lotto barrel, so we're ready to move on to the next batch. I might take some pictures and tag some of them on the end of the video if you wanted to see any of them closer up. But otherwise, that's a wrap for this one. Thanks for watching.